Hi, welcome everyone. As you know, the second generation Skoda Kodiaq has been available since last year. However, Mikhail, knowing about the upcoming premiere of the new model, didn't wait for it. He decided to let someone else deal with the teething problems and chose the first generation Kodiaq. After the facelift, I invite you to the test. Mikhail was already on my channel some time ago with a Skoda Scala. Apparently he wasn't supposed to buy any more Skodas, but he showed up with a Kodiaq. Why? I warmly invite you.
Hello, I'm Mikhail visiting from Knurów. I wasn't planning to feature more Skoda since I already discussed the Skoda Scala and its issues on the channel. In short, for 8 months we worked with the service to make the car drive straight. Unfortunately, we managed to fix it. Still, I was a bit put off, and the idea was that with the next car, it probably wouldn't be a Skoda. Here we are today. There's a Skoda Kodiaq standing here, and I think it's worth talking a bit about this car. The reason for buying a new car, in this case such a big one, was quite simple. We just had our second child. At first I started looking for used cars, but unfortunately 3 to 5-year-old models of this size were quite expensive, so once again we turned to new cars to take advantage of some financing options. Skoda was last on my list, but also had an unfair advantage. Because the number of times I was at the service center meant I saw the Kodiaq there as a demo car, so I had more opportunities to touch it and sit in it. We started with a Nissan X-Trail, which was just entering the market. In terms of interior size, it suited me very well, but I wasn't convinced about the engine. Next, I went to Toyota and checked out the recreational active vehicle 4, but the recreational active vehicle 4 didn't appeal to me, and it was also quite noisy inside the car. Moving on, we checked out cars that are actually related to each other, namely the Kia Sorento and the Hyundai Sorento. I like the interior of the Sorento more because it has more buttons, and every button serves a purpose. However, after driving it, I wasn't really convinced because my impression was that it tries to be more luxurious than it actually is. And somehow I couldn't see myself with 2 kids in this car. Maybe it was also because the demo car I drove had white leather seats that definitely had some impact. Next was the Kia Sorento, the top favorite, but it wasn't available for a test drive at the dealerships. Well, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for me, we checked out the Volkswagen Tiguan Allspace, the Seat Terraco, and the Skoda Kodiaq. Volkswagen was out because it had those touch-sensitive buttons on the steering wheel, which just don't convince me at all. The seat was one of the top choices here because I liked it more both on the outside and it was nicer on the inside too. The problem was that you can only order the seat with a 1.5 engine and front-wheel drive, so unfortunately the seat was out. And so we went with the Skoda Kodiaq, which we ordered, with the 2.0 turbocharged stratified injection gasoline engine and 4x4 drive configuration. Originally, it was the style version with a few extras, but unfortunately, those extras and the 4x4 configuration with this engine forced the starting price to be around 180,000. After a few extras, the Kodiaq style costs 200,000. However, we placed such an order, and all in all, when I calculated what I would get more in the Laurin and Clement package. Now, what tipped the scales was that I would pay extra, let's say 5 or 10%, but overall the car will be more complete and it will be easier to sell it in this version than in the style version with extras. We've enjoyed it for 2 years. Luckily, there haven't been any incidents, and I can now say I drive a new car and only visit the service center for oil changes. With the hood up, we need to discuss the engine. This unit has a 2.0 turbocharged stratified injection gasoline engine with 190 horsepower and 320 Nm of torque. You might ask, why choose a 2.0 turbocharged stratified injection instead of a diesel? Most people buy diesel, and that's the case here as well. The reason is simple. We don't drive enough for a diesel to be worth it. We've had it for 2 years and we've driven 26,000 kilometers. Mainly it's either city driving or longer trips, so we mostly drive in Poland on highways. Right now, we've just come back from a vacation in Italy, where I was really positively surprised by this car's fuel consumption, because in the configuration, 2 adults, 2 small children, plus a trunk pack to the brim, we had fuel consumption at around 7 liters. As for the drive, in this case it's 4x4, and that drive makes a big difference. So when the weather's rainy and we're starting off from an intersection, it's easier to get this car moving. The wheels don't spin, we're actually both pushed and pulled forward. Skoda recommends very long intervals. I decided to change the oil after the first 2,000–3,000 kilometers, then every 10,000, similar to how we handled the Scale. We have a scheduled service and we stick to that. So right now I've had 3 services done. The costs aren't high, you just need to buy a few liters of oil. I think that Skoda actually leads the way here when it comes to maintenance.
My friends, this episode's partner is Wayhiz, offering a Black Week deal. 3 free installments on any car you choose. Just visit Wayhiz PLR Black Week, get the code, pick a car, and you're done. The promotion ends Sunday, November 30th. Importantly, you don't have to finance the car by Sunday, you just need to get the code, which will give you the right to use this promotion for 6 months. You can't miss this. It's worth getting such a code just in case, even if you're not planning to change your car today. I warmly invite you. The link is in the description.
We're inside. You can see there's leather here. It's black, it's dark, only the headliner is light. Honestly, it wasn't a requirement because, as I mentioned earlier, we plan to buy the Kodiaq in the style version, which has fabric inside, but the sides are actually leather. In the Lauren and Clement version, here, there's leather everywhere. I wasn't really a big fan of it. However, the advantage here is that the front seats are fully electric and ventilated, but they don't have a massage function. That was an option I consciously chose not to buy, and in this case the seat cushion is also not adjustable. For me, I'm 1.80 meters tall. It's not a problem for people who might be taller on longer trips. I assume it could be a problem, so it's worth paying attention to this here. However, when it comes to me and my choice, Lauren meets 100% of the requirements set for him here. If we look at the seats, we can see that there are standard headrests here, something you won't find in the Rally Sport or the Sport line. And here too, we deliberately bought this version because I'm not a fan of integrated headrests in seats, since I think they're only good for one specific type of person. However, if someone is very tall or short, these seats already have flaws. One of the things we actually added to this configuration is the panoramic roof, which I was honestly a bit worried about because with my luck I thought it would start leaking soon or it would get too hot for me. But on sunny days that never happened. Some people might think that a panoramic roof is a fantastic solution for kids who want to watch the stars while driving. With small children, nothing like that happened, because in the evening or at night, children usually sleep, and during the day, usually, we received a request to cover this roof because it's glaring. So here, please don't even consider romanticizing the use of a panoramic roof when it comes to children, as you can see in the car. You'll notice there's piano black, which I don't like, and unfortunately, the upper edge of the glove compartment is also piano black. Here, the central part by the gear lever is also glossy.
I did the 2-meter tall person test myself and had no issues adjusting to the steering wheel. The steering wheel here probably is one of the few things can be adjusted manually. That's good. I like it because I can get where I want right away. It's very good above my head. There's not a lot of extra space, but I don't have to slouch either. Don't adjust your receivers. I haven't adjusted the driver's seat either. There are several nice centimeters of space in front of my knees. It's a bit worse above my head because, to be honest, I'm in constant contact with the headliner. A nice thing is the small Santa tunnel. There's an air vent, there are heated seats in the middle, and there's an air vent. The third zone is 12V with well-finished pockets, including third pockets in the doors. Attention, we have some cool things to show. We can adjust them. That's the standard setting, 1 level deeper, 2 settings to choose from. Yes, here it's more for sleeping.
We're at the trunk. This is likely the car's biggest advantage in terms of length and space. As we can see, we have a cover, which in this case we can't put away. There really isn't much space here, but we can take out these side panels and then we actually get a bit more room. However, it's not as much as I've seen in the models that were, for example, displayed in the showroom. The problem is that in the LK version, in this case, we actually have an extra double floor that was purchased. And usually a double floor works in such a way that you can lower it. In the LK version, this doesn't happen. And unfortunately, I was very surprised by that, negatively.
So, what's happening with this board?
The problem is that here, if we zoom in on this mechanism, we can see that the board should go under this mechanism. However, underneath it there's styrofoam, which unfortunately blocks us from lowering this double floor, and the only thing we can do with this floor. If we want to use more trunk capacity, we can put it aside, leave it in the garage, and then we can drive around in this configuration. This floor is in two parts, and now we can see that there really is more space. As we all know, Skoda, from the Simply Clever slogan here in the LK version, someone kind of cheats that motto a bit. Because if we also remove this mat that I put here, we can see that it's an accessory mat. You don't actually get it with the Skoda. We can see it here. The floor under the double floor is, you could say, quite unusual. Here we have holes where we probably won't put anything. And here we have a spare wheel with a Canton subwoofer. And here, unfortunately, there's the problem that, according to the user manual, we can only put 5 key on this floor. Yes, that was also my first question to Skoda. Why does it work like this? And why is this double floor not really double, even though it is double? When we take out, so to speak, all the foam, and if we take out the wheel, then we have those 10 centimeters that we actually need to put that floor in there. Also, in the version I saw in the showroom, I think it was Style or maybe Ambition, there was no spare wheel as standard. This floor actually goes down, so that's something I want to point out. A double floor in the Laurent Clément configuration might make sense if someone has a dog, but if someone needs to transport larger items here, it could be a problem.
All right, the window test is done. They all work.
They work, fortunately. The roof works too.
All right, so before we move on to the topic of time off, let's talk about the Kodiaq itself. Let's maybe start with the scale, because apparently this story with the scale has a continuation, and that this video didn't end just with, let's say, venting frustration towards Skoda, but something actually came out of it as well, right?
Exactly. And it turned out that I wasn't the only one who had this problem. For sure, more people had such unpleasant experiences with owning a new car. However, a few people actually wrote to me that they also have this problem, whether in the comments or by email. They found a way to contact me. And it actually turned out that a few people had it too. Skoda Scale, which was also being pulled, I think also, as far as I remember, each one to the right. Someone even wrote, I think with Kamiko Karok. And I know for sure that for one person, in fact, a few people swapped that beam. I know they're likely still dealing with the service centers. However, in a way, it comforted me a little that I wasn't the only one. And that there was actually some positive takeaway from that video, that it wasn't just, as you said, me venting my frustration about something. It actually did some good. That there were actually people who would probably keep driving with it because the service center might have sold them a story that this type just works that way. So you could keep driving it until the warranty ends, then someone else would deal with it once it's no longer covered. But actually, a few people wrote to me, so there's at least some positive in that.
I already said this during the recordings, but off camera, and I'll say it again. Getting into this car, yes, in fact, the words came to my lips, and who did it bother? Look, here we have the kind of cockpit layout we like, with a hood over the gauges. Everything looks familiar. We have full screen functionality, but still a classic cockpit layout, including the screen. No matter how big it is, this one isn't small, maybe it's not huge either, but still, it's packed. It's an integral part of the whole dashboard. And even though the interior is fully modern, we don't have to ask ourselves where the automotive industry has gone, because it hasn't gone in the wrong direction yet, like the latest models have taken us. This is the last stage of development in Volkswagens. Generally in Volkswagen Audi Group, where screens have already arrived, but buttons haven't disappeared yet, it could stay like this. Who was bothered by that? I recently tested an Audi Q5 with such a distinctive title, kind of from memes, with a diesel. I had a choice between gasoline or diesel, and I said this is also a diesel because everyone buys diesels, and then you can wonder what it's all about. In the Kodiaq, it's the same. Everyone wants a diesel. No one even considers the thought that, in fact, gasoline won't be more expensive, and actually it'll be cheaper to buy. And in insurance and in financing. And when all of that adds up, you don't even know how many kilometers you'd have to drive. Hearing that clatter, even if, well, soundproofed after so many miles and years, and if you still have the car, it all amounts to nothing.
Yeah, that's one thing. And secondly, there's also AdBlue, which in this case we don't have.
We have a wide road here and no one around. 49.
40, 50.
There's a super light steering system. It was very easy to turn. It could really be thrown off balance. In the end, yes, exactly, but it turned very obediently. The tire. It delayed everything a bit, stretched it out over time because you could also hear it squealing, yes. However, I really appreciate that in the end, it regained steerability during the recovery and was probably braked on the left wheel to regain stability. I really appreciate that it wasn't just any change of direction, but a really deep, obedient change of direction that led to this. Do you want to turn? No problem, we're going across, and the way he turned, with such depth, ease, and willingness, even after the tire adjustment. That impresses me, especially since we did it in regular, normal driving mode.
I'm curious how it'll behave in sport mode. We can repeat it a bit. It is actually stiffened.
Let's switch it to sport mode.
When it's stiffened, we're in sport mode. Because this is dynamic chassis control suspension, the steering system also changes and is more... It actually offers more resistance, so you can check that if you want.
The resistance is progressive since zero is very light. Only later will something actually happen. All right, we'll loop here since we're on a wider road, okay?
Yes, where there are no curbs, that would be great, yeah, in case something goes wrong. I've seen videos like that on the internet too.
But not on my channel.
I'd rather not be the star of one of those videos.
And one time, and I've really done hundreds of these moose tests, there was only one time when I wasn't sure if it was a good idea, but that was with an American car. Here we have a bit wider, 50. And this time there was no need for any electronic intervention. The tires squealed just as much as the steering system did. I feel like there was a bit more resistance, but it made about the same deep turn to the left. However, DTC made it so that it didn't catch on the steering, and as a result, it just kept going on its own, so to speak, without relying on the wheels with electronics. In both cases, you could say that when it comes to avoiding the obstacle, the task was accomplished. Yes, it worked. Fortunately, considering that we're not driving a sports model, but a fully family-oriented one, and a heavier version at that because it's equipped all the way up to the roof. Yes, I think that here, Skoda did everything to make sure it not only looks good in the catalog, but also performs well on the road in unexpected situations. Let's also do a 0-100 acceleration test and check its catalog value.
I think, I don't want to be wrong, but it's probably under 8.
By saying under 8, aren't you taking a risk?
I think it's 7.5, however...
We've already tested normal mode, we've already tested sport mode. We'll get back to how it accelerated to 100 in a moment, but now we're switching to comfort mode. So I'm driving over every possible manhole cover, and I expect that we'll glide over them without feeling a thing.
Well, almost.
DTC will always act.
So there really is a difference between sports.
In the standard, and there is, it's not pneumatic, it's individual. Let me check individual, adjust. And here we have DTC, we simply have 3 options to choose from. Sport, normal, control. So we don't have something like in Volkswagens, where you can drag the bar left or right, go deeper somewhere, adjust it up or down, but it's okay. As for the acceleration to 100, I have to admit this was the most reluctant and lazy launch control I've ever started with. That's because I suspect that if I just stood there and floored the gas without any launch control at all, that's pretty much how cars take off, like this. The only difference was the proud display of launch control active. And it just makes you feel better right away. But if it doesn't have it, then when you try to accelerate, as you take your foot off the brake, it just stands there for a moment, looks around. I don't know. Okay, so you could even say, paraphrasing what you said, that Skoda didn't convince you, but Kodiaq did.
Kodiaq did, yes. Skoda didn't. I can fully agree with that.
So to sum up, it's good that you ultimately chose Skoda. Although, of course, it had the advantage that while waiting at the service center, you had plenty of time to take a closer look at it, and you're satisfied. And that's the most important thing, and honestly, it's everyone's dream to choose a car and 2 years later be able to say it was a good choice, right? Yes.
I wish that for everyone.
I hope the next elections go just as well for you.
Thank you.
Thank you for presenting the car, for coming here to us in Krakow, and to you, dear viewers, thank you as well for watching this episode. Remember to subscribe and see you in the next videos.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.